Hello everyone. In today's tutorial, we will talk about operator overloading. So let's start. So first of all, what is an operator? So we already know that there are some arithmetic operators and logical operators, and there are some other operators also, right? So for example, we use plus operator, right? Plus operator to add two integers or to attach two strings or to list. We know that we can add two strings and to list by plus operators, right? For example, we can add two integers here, 10 and 20, two integers, and we can simply add the values here by the plus operator. And also we can multiply two integer values or floating values by my plus or multiplication operator, right? And we can also concate the strings using the plus operator, right? Attach two strings. So this is my string and this is another string. And we can also repeat string by multiplication operator. We already know these examples, right? So how this is working actually, my built-in integer class and string class or list class have their own method to work with this plus operator or multiplication operator. We have those built-in methods. Now the question is, what if you want to use the plus operator in your own class? That means you want to add your instances or objects. So let me clear about this. For example, this is my sum class, user defined sum class, right? So sum class have only one constructor here, define init method, and it is taking x and y, right? And own reference as always. So cell.number equals to x plus y. So this is my very simple design class. And I'm creating an object of this class. That means number 1 equals to sum 10, 20, right? So this is my first object that holds only an instance variable, that is self.number equals to x plus y. So number 1 will be 30, right? And for number 2 will be 30 plus 20, 50, right? So here sum is not a function here. Sum is not a function. Maybe you are thinking that that's a function. No, this line denotes that we already have seen that this line denotes that we are creating an object of sum class and storing the reference into num1, and another object sum and storing the reference into num2. So number 1 and number 2 are data types of sum class, right? If I ask you what is the data type of number 1, so data type of number 1 is sum and data type of number 2 is sum. So now the thing is this, if I say number 1 plus number 2, it will not work. It will give me an error. Why it's giving me an error? Because Python doesn't know the plus operand for sum class. We cannot just add two instances of sum because there are no built-in methods. So we can solve this by operator overloading. We will see how we can solve this, how we can add multiple objects by or plus operator or other operators, subtraction or multiplication, division, less than, greater than or equal. So let's see an example first. So better we will go to code and then come back to slide again. So let's say what I'm saying, suppose n1 equals to 5 and n2 equals to 6, right? So we just simply know that if I like print n1 plus n2 and if I run this, it's working, right? It's working fine, 11, right? But what is called internally is when I'm saying n1 plus n2, internally actually it denotes that n1 dot a special add method, add double underscore n2. Actually this thing is converted to this. So when I'm saying n1 plus n2, this statement, this expression is converted to this thing. So my built-in in class have this special add method, double underscore add double underscore, right? And as this is an instance method, so this method will be called. So let's try this thing. So if I say print and just copy paste this thing here, see my fourth line and the fifth line will give me the same output here. If I run this, So both are giving me 11 here. And if I say minus, so it's giving me 5 minus 6, let's say this is 7, this is 7, or just a greater value, 8. So this is giving me 2, and this is giving me 8 plus 6, 14, right? But if I n1, if this is n1 minus n2, then automatically there will be a method called sub, right? So if I say sub, then 2 and 2, right? So this line denotes this line. So it is working fine. So we got that. So we got that our integer class or string class our string class or integer class has already built-in methods like add, sub, and other methods, other operator methods. So let's try with a string here like CSE and 111, right? So if I say n1 plus n2 and add, both will give me the same output. So CSE111 and CSE111. Why this is working? Because string class have built-in add or sub method and everything. So let's try with my own design class, right? This is working for my integer or string class or list class, right? But what if I want to add my own objects? Let's design a class here. Class, suppose data class, and it's holding init method, init, and taking self with a value single and self dot like number equals to x. Okay, or you can just say self dot value. Okay, and now I'm creating two objects of that. Number one equals to data, and this is taking 10. And if I create another object here, number 2 equals to 20, right? So I'm creating two objects here. And if I show you the data type of number 1 and number 2, type of num1 and type of num2, maybe you are thinking those are integers, right? But no, those are not integers. So number 2, and if I run this, see, so this is my data type, right? Data, right? This is the objects, this is the design class. My design class name is data, and the type of number 1 and number 2 is data. It's not a integer type, right? If I say number 3 equals to 40, and if I say data type of number 3, so this is int, right? Class int, but this is my data class. Okay, now I want to add these two objects, print number 1 plus number 2. Will it work? So number 1 is an object of data class, and number 2 is also another object of my data class. So I am expecting 10 plus 20 equals to 30, right? But it will not give me 30. See, if I run this, unsupported operand types for plus, that means I'm adding an object of data with another object of data. So I cannot add this. Why? Because I have no method to add this to instances. So what should I do? As earlier we have seen that when I'm adding two values, two integer values like n1 equals to 4 and n2 equals to 5, and when I'm saying print, we have already seen that n1 plus n2, automatically a built-in method will be called. We have seen that. What was that? n1 dot double underscore add double underscore n2, right? We have already seen that, and it's working fine. So if I comment this, it should work fine. 9, right? 4 plus 5 equals to 9. So I need to overload this add method in my class so to achieve this addition. What I said, if I want to add number 1 and number 2, I have to overload this method here, right? So if I overload this, like define, and what was the method? Add, right? So double underscore add double underscore. So define double underscore add double underscore. So when I'm saying double underscore, when a method is starting with double underscore and ending with double underscore, That is a special method in Python, or we can say that that's a magic method, conventionally say. So add, and as usual it will take the self first and other. Okay, other. And I'm saying return self dot value plus other dot value. Okay, so what's happening here now? If I run this, let me comment this out. So I'm creating, I have already created two objects of data class, number 1 and number 2, and I'm saying number 1 plus number 2. And you already know that this thing will be converted to number 1 dot add number 2, right? So we have already seen that in this example. So this thing will be converted to this one. So as this expression is converted to this one, my special add method will be called, and we overloaded the operator plus. What we did here, we overloaded the operator. We overloaded this operator by the special add method. Now if I run this, it will return me self.value equals to 10. See, number 1, when this method is called, number 1 is passed and received by self1. We know that always the first argument is the own reference, right? The add method is called the reference of number 1. So number 1 will be received by self and number 2 will be received by other. So number 1 dot value is holding 10, and number 2 is received by other, right? So other dot val, this is passed by reference. So number 2's reference will be passed and received by other variable, right? So other dot val will give me 20. And I'm saying 10 plus 20, return 10 plus 20. So this will return 30 here and it will print 30. So see, now it is not giving me an error. But earlier it was giving me an error because there was no add method or overloaded add method here. So now this is working fine. So if I run this, it is working fine. Even I can concat two strings here. So if I say str1 equals to CSE and str2 equals to 111, and if I say print str1 plus str2, sorry, if I say str1 plus str2, it will concat those strings. The just see str1. Now what I'm doing, this str1 is a solid string, actual string, but I want to concat these two things by my data class. So for this I need to create an object of data, right? So data CSE and data 111, right? Okay. So now this number 1, number 2, string 1, string 2 are not type of int or string here. What are the types of number 1? Type of number 1 is data, type of number 2 is data, type of string str1 is also data, and type of str2 is also data. So all the 4 objects are type of data class, right? So if I want to add this str1, that means an instance of data class and another instance of data class, again this add method will be called. So if I run this now, so it will, for 12th number line it will give me 30, and for 13th number line it will give me CSE111. When I'm saying str1 plus str2, automatically will internally this method will be called for this one, like str1 dot add str2. So I'm just I just given an example like plus operator. Let's see some other operators like logical operators from the slide. Let's go back to the slide. So I guess you have already understood what we have done here. So we overloaded the plus method. We overloaded the plus operator by writing the add method in our own design class. So we overloaded the method here. So let's see another example. So what I did in code, this is we have already seen this example. So to overload the plus operator, we need to implement add method in the class. We have already seen that how we can declare our own method and achieve operator overloading. So let's see another example. So now I want to overload the greater than operator for my class. So I have declared two instances here. Number 1 equals to data 10 and number 2 equals to data 20. So the same thing, number 1 is an instance of data class and number 2 is another instance of data class. So if I'm checking if number 1 is greater than number 2, but those are not actual numbers or type of integer, right? So it cannot directly check 10 is greater than 20 or not. We need to overload, or we need to implement the GT method here. So this GT method is a special method to overload the operator greater than. So define GT self and it's receiving other, and inside this we are checking self.x is greater than other.x. Like when we were creating an object number 1 equals to data 10, that means for the instance of number 1 instance variable x is holding 10, and for number 2 the instance variable x is holding 20. So when I'm comparing self.x, that means 10 is greater than other.x, and other is what? Other is number 2. So 10 is greater than 20. It is false. So it will return false here, and this if condition will be false, and the printing will be number 2 is greater than number 1. So the output is number 2 is greater than number 1. Let's see another example. So this is less than. So we need to overload the LT method, the special double underscore LT double underscore. The same thing, firstly we are creating an object of my data class, my own design class, number 1 equals to data 10 and number 2 equals to data 20, right? So we have created two instances of my data class, and I'm checking if number 1 is less than number 2, right? So what I'm doing here, when I'm saying number 1 less than number 2, automatically this method will be called, because we overloaded or we implemented this method in our class. So we overloaded this method, and inside this method we are receiving our own reference, that means self, and we can say number 1 and number 2 will be converted internally, number 1 dot double underscore LT number 2. So this thing and this thing are same. We have already seen in code and just last slide. So number 1 is less than number 2. This LT method will be called, and number 1 is holding 10 because the instance variable x is holding 10. And for number 2 is another instance of data class, and the self.x is holding 20. That's the basic stuff. So I guess you already know that. So I'm checking self.x. That means number 1's x is holding 10. 10 is less than other.x. Number 2's x is 20. So 10 is less than 20. This if condition is true, and it is returning number 1 is less than number 2. So my output is number 1 is less than number 2. Let's see another example. Equal, right? Double equal. I'm checking number 1 is equal number 2 or not. So for this one, we need to implement the special EQ method in my class. So the same data class here, and I'm designing the equal method. I'm overloading the equal method here. So number 1 equals to data 30 and number 2 equals to data 30, right? So both objects instance variable x will hold 30, right? When I'm saying number 1 equals to 30, that means self.x is holding for number 1 30, and for number 2 another object of data class, and that's also receiving 30, and my self.x or instance variable x will hold 30. Both are different instances, right? We already know that those are different instances of my data class, and data type of number 1 and number 2 is data, right? So when I'm saying print number 1 equals to number 2, that means internally this method will be called, and we already overloaded the equal method in this class, right? So as we implemented this class, equal method will be called, and self.x, that means self is holding the reference of number 1, and number 1.x will give me 30, and other is the holding the reference of number 2, and number 2.x will give me 30. If 30 equals to 30, yes, both is 30 and both are equal. So my output will be both are equal. We have seen some couple of examples of operator overloading, like less than, plus, and greater than. There are some other methods also. Just see some other Python methods to overload the operator. We can also add, subtract, multiplication, power, division, floor division, less than, and etc. We have other methods also. We have so many methods to overload. So expression is all this n1 and n2 are objects, right? Those things are not holding a string or integer, right? Because if n1 is an integer and n2 is an integer, that will call the internal add method of integer class, right? So like this number one is my own, this is the object of my own design class, right? So keep in mind that if you have your own design class and you are holding your objects in n1 and n2, you can add those two objects by implementing this add method, right? For addition, we have already seen that we have implemented add method. For subtraction, we will implement sub, and multiplication mul. For power, POW, true division, floor division, LT, less than, equal, and others. We have some other methods also. You can search in online for achieving operator overloading for other operators also. So I guess you have understood. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your patience throughout the lecture.